Hey everyone, it's Finn. I just wanted to make a vid about some thoughts I've been having, and I want to share them with you. If you've watched some of my most recent vlogs, I've been talking about how I've been quite low. I've hit a period of depression, and that freaked me out quite a bit because I haven't had a period of depression for about 2.5 years, basically. Since I got clean and sober and got into AA, I haven't had a serious period of depression. I've had some low mood and what have you, but not, enduring everyday lowness, depression. And it's been really hard for me to deal with, but I've kind of come to a point now, with the help of a lot of really great people, and here on the YouTube community and in my daily life, that, it's okay, that it's part of the process, and that it's not necessarily because I've got a history of mental health problems. It is actually quite common with a lot of trans guys that we tend to go through a period of depression, and I think it's especially common over here in the UK, because I think a lot of it's made worse by the wait to get treatment. I mean, I'm pretty sure, really, if I could have had treatment earlier on, it wouldn't have hit me quite as hard as it has recently, but it is how it is, and there's nothing I can personally do about that yet. But anyway, it's got me thinking about some stuff, because I can't help it. I study psychology, and I'm fascinated by psychology, and I can't help but analyse the whys and what fors of stuff. And I did a video a few weeks ago on It's a Man's World called Penis Envy, and I was talking about how I had this period last summer where I was insanely jealous of cis guys. I'd see them in the park with their tops off, and I'd just have this rush of kind of primordial anger and just angst and jealousy. And jealousy is not an emotion I really am familiar with. It doesn't really happen to me. Jealousy and anger, I think it's something I've probably blocked out over the years and I need to experience. But it was quite odd for me. But anyway, after the video, I was talking to a guy who'd commented, and I said something about how I thought it had something to do with me maybe having to grieve the past. And then I was thinking about Elisabeth Kubler-Ross, who developed the concept of the stages of grief. There are 5 stages of grieving. There's denial, bargaining, anger, depression, and acceptance. And this framework has been used not only for dealing with grief, but also for dealing with huge life changes. It's been used to explain the process of recovery from addiction, and I can definitely see those stages in my process of recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. And looking at it in a kind of context of change, significant life change, I can see all of these stages in my transition so far this last year. So I've just been kind of going over it in my head and kind of looking at all of that and what it means. And if I look at the very beginning of my transition, when in the summer of 2011, when everything came to the surface, properly came to the surface, and I started to really kind of look into everything trans, I hit denial massively. I saw this stuff on the internet, was reading everything for the first time, and I just went, no way, I cannot be transgender. No, that's it, end of. And then I just went for this real stage of anger and, it's not fair, why has this come up now? I'm doing really well in my sobriety, this is not on, it's not on. And then, I had to kind of face up to the fact that I might be transgender, so then I went into this bargaining stage of like, well, okay, maybe I'm transgender, but maybe I'm just a little bit transgender. Maybe I'm genderqueer, so I can just dress more male, but I won't change my name, and I won't ask people to call me she, because I can't face losing that. And all of this, so I was going through this kind of denial, bargaining kind of stage, and this anger that, why now? Why, when my sobriety is just so smooth and lovely and I don't need this hassle? And then I hit a real low period for not very long, for about a month, when just the enormity of it hit. I'd have to tell people and talk to Nat, and would I lose Nat? And in the end, I knew it was trans, and I knew I had to do something about it, and I moved into the acceptance of being trans. So that's it in a nutshell, but you can see what I mean going through these stages. So at that very beginning period, I did cycle through these changes quite rapidly, these kind of 5 stages of grief or change. And you don't necessarily go through them in order. You can kind of like go back and forwards within them. So, you know, you might have a bit of acceptance and then go back to anger and what have you. But she also uses in one of her explanations of how it's applied to change, she uses this change cycle, and she says that in the beginning of a change, you go through this honeymoon period where it's like exciting, this change is really awesome, you know, brilliant, wonderful, all of that, and then you kind of go, and I can relate to that as well. So I think what happened was I accepted that I was trans after going through all these different cycles of kind of anger and bargaining and what have you, walked into acceptance, yes, I'm trans, and was on this real high. I was wonderful to really know this for the first time and whatever. And then over this year, I've gone through the stages again. I've gone through, although I knew it was going to be hard to get treatment and what have you, there was an element of denial in how hard that was going to be and how hard the weight was going to be on me emotionally. Then there was some anger about the weight and just how painful that is, and there was some bargaining going on that, okay, I can do this to keep myself busy whilst I'm waiting and blah, 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 blah. And then just before Christmas, I hit a massive depression, massive, because I went to Exeter, and what that did was it really, really broke through the denial and made me sit back and go, wow, this is going to be one hell of a long journey. And I knew it, but I think for the first time I really kind of embraced the fact that yes, it's going to be wonderful. Having tea is going to make things so much easier. But then, you know, the high of being on tea is going to lessen, and then I'm going to have to want top surgery, and then I've got to work out the rest. And it's an ongoing journey, and the enormity of that hit me. So that was the depression stage, and still is the depression stage. And I think for me, the acceptance part in this stage is actually just accepting that I'm not alright. I think that's what's happened to me recently. It was awful at the beginning of the year. I was freaked out that I was this depressed. But I'm at a point now where I'm like, I'm depressed and it's alright. You know, I'm doing what I can on a daily basis. Because acceptance doesn't mean so everything's wonderful, you know. It often means accepting exactly what it is, and nothing is wonderful right now. Yes, I could be on tea next week, and that's great, and I'll deal with that then. But right now, on a day-to-day basis, I'm struggling to do the very smallest of tasks, and it can be quite frustrating. But I've actually accepted that now, that that's just the way it is for this time being. I mean, this is all just like Finn's random thoughts, but it helps me to kind of look at it like this, look at it as a kind of like model, a concept, a process, whatever, that I'm going to go through, and you know, all trans guys are going to go through this. I tried to find online if any of the Kulber-Ross, I can never say her name, has been related to the trans experience, because I think, you know, it's definitely useful. Because with being trans, I've got to go, as we all have, through loads of different changes. You know, there's been the whole year coming out as trans, living as male without hormones. Then the next bit is going to be going on hormones, getting used to all the changes of that, and then that will settle, and then it's going to be the surgery. So I think it's a process of constantly going through this kind of like denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And acceptance at different times is going to mean different times. For now, it means for me just accepting that I'm low, but that it can get better, and just accept it for how it is. Then I'm going to go on tea, and the changes are going to happen, and they'll get to a point where they've changed me as much as they can, the hormones, and I'll have to accept whatever they give me. Do you see what I mean? So it's this constant moving into acceptance, and then new changes happen, and you go through the stages again, and then move into acceptance. And that helps me to know that that's what I'm ultimately moving towards, is acceptance of whatever it is at that time. So yeah, I think it's really interesting to look at these stages of grief in the kind of change concept of transitioning. Because I think there's two things going on. There's like the grieving for the lost me. Now, not for 1 minute that I wanted to remain female-bodied and carry on like that. I didn't. But that at least was a fixed identity. And I knew what was going on. And by coming out as trans, I've lost all concept of identity, because I'm now living as male. And because I'm not read as male, I can't build an identity, because every time I go outside, someone whips it out from under my feet by going, "Can I help you, sir?" Sorry, "Can I help you, miss?" When they say "sir," it's brilliant. But most of the time, it's "Can I help you, miss?" And my identity goes, phew. So I'm grieving the loss of that solid identity and the knowing stuff, because I don't know anything. I'm walking blind most of the time. And I think there's grieving going on also for my lost self. You know, I'm almost 40. I'm never going to have a boyhood. I can have top surgery, but I'm never going to have a cis male's chest. I'm going to have scars, you know, and both of those things have to be grieved for. Now, I am a very positive person, but sometimes I get this wrong. I can be too positive and not actually accept the stuff, because being positive is a great thing, right? There's a difference between wallowing in self-pity and acceptance. You have to kind of meet it in the middle, and I'm really trying to learn to do that more and more, because I would have been really poor me beforehand. So yeah, it's not about saying everything's wonderful, it's about saying, actually, this is shit, but what can I do about it? And that's the thing, you see. I can say, I'm almost 40, I'm never going to have a boyhood. Oh, well, never mind. That's not good enough. I actually need to feel the anger, the upset about that, you know. It is shit that my body's all mixed up and I've ended up female-bodied and I didn't, you know, I don't feel like I belong in a female body. But I can't get back a boyhood that I didn't have. But at the same time, it's good for me to go, that's shit, and allow myself to grieve for it. Does that make sense? And in the same way, allow myself to grieve for the kind of solid concept that was once me, and accept the fact that I'm moving into a new identity and it's going to shift and change for a while until I find myself, because I'm having to be a certain way at the moment to pass as male. I don't like that. I'm really wanting testosterone so I can just be my authentic self. You know, so I don't know. If anyone relates to this, if you've watched this, because it's gone on for a bit, I'm sorry, but I wanted to share this because it felt really important. If you've got this far into the video, you either just like me a lot and you want to watch it, or you relate. So please drop me a message if you get where I'm coming from with this. It does help me to realise when I'm going through something, whether it be anger or whatever, that there's a reason. Looking at this model by Ross, it makes sense. If I can just see and go, I'm feeling anger, I need to just feel it and then move towards acceptance. Or I'm in depression and I need to accept it, you know, whatever it is. And I think, you know, it's a long journey for us trans guys, a really, really long journey. And we're all done at different stages. I don't know what being done means for me yet. You know, hormones, top surgery, and I don't know. But I do believe there must come a point. I've heard from trans guys that have been transitioned for years, and there is a point where you come to where you relax in yourself and you're comfortable. So it won't be this massive cycling of all these stages so much. But I think for the next sort of 5 years, there is going to be this denial, bargaining, anger, depression and acceptance going on and on and on and on. But that's okay. If I can understand why it's going on, then I can deal with it. That's the way my head works. Overanalyzing isn't good, but I think understanding why something's happening gives you a bit more power to do something about it. It does me anyway, because I like to think about this stuff. But anyway, I'll leave it as that. If you do relate to any of this, just drop me a message. Be nice to hear from you. Leave it there. Speak to you soon, guys. Bye-bye.